Welcome to episode 43 of Rubbish Talk with myself, Alistair Meldrum.
And me, Jane Bond.
So this week we have Stuart Stockman. Stuart Stockman is a waste disposal technician at Stirling Council, and it's almost as if we've planned this. So Stuart started at the council as a modern apprentice and has worked his way up to become a very knowledgeable waste expert. So following on from Elspeth's episode last week when we chatted a lot about development of young staff. This is a real example at Stirling Council. So before we do that, any news this week, Jane? Anything happening in the big bad world of waste?
Well, there's always something happening in the big bad world of waste, isn't there? It's just picking out the right things. Yeah, we've got the bin strike happening. Yeah, so it seems to be all over. I think it says 26 areas are affected by the bin strike, set to go on the 14th of August, unless something drastic happens before then, just in time for the Edinburgh Festival, as usual. Was it not 2 years ago when it went on strike, or more than that actually, during the Edinburgh Festival? Yeah, so
I remember the last strike taking a picture of the bins going down Sauchiehall Street, the litter bins, and what people decided to do was just leave their coffee cups around the bins. Every bin was, I was just like, why can you not just tip your coffee down the drain if you're not drunk and take your coffee cup home? It's like,
yeah, and I think
instead of
that's
leaving
the
it in the street and magically thinking it'll disappear, it's not going to be good. I think the only authorities not included are Gellan Butte, Western Isles, Moray, Borders and Shetland and Western Barton, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it seems to say. So East Renfrewshire Council, here we go again.
And the other thing that lots of the public will not even have thought about is most of the incinerators are having to put in contingency plans because if they run out of waste, then they need to shut down and they can't keep generating electricity. So it's going to have a big knock-on effect to the incinerators in Scotland. In the past, when there was a strike, it would be landfill and you would just turn off the tap, but with incineration, you can't do that. So
yeah, good point.
Depending how long it goes on for, there's going to be a bit of knock-on effect. So
I think the thing is as well is people don't actually appreciate what the bin guys do, refuse collectors and whatever, until they're not doing it anymore.
I don't think people realise that the stuff never stops. The waste never stops. They don't realise that the whole scale of it, and it doesn't take many days for it to stop for you really to start noticing. So maybe it's a good thing the public start to see these things every so often. Don't know. But talking about incineration, the ETS consultation, I was struggling to remember what ETS stands for, Emission Trading Scheme. Consultations just closed, and there is ongoing concern in the waste industry that is been fairly poorly written and going to have a pretty big impact on the waste sector, and probably not the impact that was intended. So we've got a wee article here from LARAC have warned that local authorities, which we talked a few weeks back, local authorities are going to have to pick up the brunt of the costs because the operators are going to say this is a change in legislation and pass the cost back to the local authority. So we'll need to watch and see how this one goes.
Yeah, it's just going to increase the cost of increase the cost of waste disposal, isn't it? Or waste incineration. You're just kind of taking from one hand and giving to another.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And what then means is actually means that a landfill will become cheaper again. So we'll push material back to landfill. But in saying that, in Scotland we'll not be able to do that because the landfill ban will be enforced by 2025. So
yes, where's it going to go?
Exactly. Is it going to have to go for incineration and pay the emission trading scheme charges? So yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see what happens. But there's far more. I did the Resource Management Association submitted their consultation. I did read through it, but if I'm being honest, I didn't totally understand some of it. So there's been lots of brighter, more intelligent people than me have sat down and tried to think through some of the issues with it. So we'll just need to wait and see.
Yeah, well, I was looking at something as well, and I think this is a good thing. Average number of carrier bags washed up on UK beaches has fallen by 80% since the introduction of carrier bag charges in 2015. So
I thought it'd
that
be
must
more
be a
than
good
that.
thing.
I thought it'd be more than that, Jane, because I've literally never bought a carrier bag since that 5p charge came in. I know it's no longer 5p charge, but it's...
I think I was reading the also reading the scale and cost of litter and fly tipping report that was produced a while back.
That was the Scottish Government, the one we promised a few weeks ago to read properly, and we've never got around to it.
Yeah, it's June 2023. You know me research, and it was all about the cost, and it's quite interesting because if you look at commonly littered items, there's a interesting diagram which looks at the most commonly littered items now are food containers, wrappers, and packaging. Then it goes to drink bottles and cans, down to smoking related litter, then dog fouling, cardboard boxes, food waste, plastic bags almost at the bottom, and then chewing gum. So you can see possibly, hopefully, food containers, wrappers and packaging, drinks bottles and cans. If DRS is brought in, there is potential there, significant potential there to bring down those commonly littered items.
Absolutely. I quite like the thing with that. So it was that report you're referring to. It was the Marine Conservation Society, and they've been doing that. They've been doing that study for 30 years now. So what they do is they've got a 100-meter stretch of beach, and they obviously analyse, exactly what comes off it. Which is quite sad that we've got to do that, but it probably gives them quite good data.
Well, absolutely, but at least you can see some things going down. The cost of littering as well, looking at that scale and cost of littering and fly tipping, if you look at the cost of littering just to local authorities, £48 million to local authorities for picking up other people's litter.
It's just mental, isn't it? It's there's far better things we could be spending our money on than picking up people's litter because they're too lazy to put in a bin or take it home with them. It's just astounding, isn't it? It's just.
And do you think it's not going to get worse during the bin strikes as well? There's just going to be litter everywhere, isn't there? Because people just don't want to, just won't take it home. But anyway, we could talk about that for ages, couldn't we? Really.
Yeah, that reminds me of somebody was moaning in a post I read about they were eating their lunch with one of these wooden teaspoons, and it's like, just stick a teaspoon in your work bag, and you don't need to use a wooden teaspoon.
Yeah.
People they don't seem to think about that. They seem to always assume and okay, you can be unprepared sometimes, but regular day to day, week to week, have your teaspoon, have your coffee cup, have your refillable water bottle. We don't need to produce as much waste as we do.
Do we could change the world if we really wanted to, couldn't we?
Well, we can only try. We can only try. Anyway, sticking with the marine theme, we picked up one about a biotech company is looking to transform the sails that are used in sailing boats into synthetic vanilla flavouring.
Really?
Which how they got from plastic sails to synthetic vanilla flavouring, I have no clue, but that's what they plan doing. So a lot of most of the sails and sailing boats are made from PET, and that's pretty much standard. And there's this startup called Sustainable Sailing, which is trying to put this together, and it's two brothers who have both a background in sailing and chemistry. So as always we'll share a link for it, so if anybody is interested, you can have a wee nosy.
That's quite interesting. I wonder how they would market it, ice cream sailing or something like that, or get your ice cream.
I didn't mention ice cream, like Jane. I just mentioned vanilla flavouring.
Vanilla flavouring makes me think of ice cream. So there you go. can, once our boat's gone for a burn, we can just eat the
I'm,
ice cream afterwards.
I'm assuming there is a commercial market for synthetic vanilla flavouring, and they're trying to tap into that market. So, yeah,
Okay. Well,
interesting
is
stuff.
vanilla not actually, is vanilla not one of those things that's gone really expensive? Vanilla pods and things like that. I'm sure they were really, at one point, they were really expensive, vanilla flavouring, because of that. So there you go. And the last one I've got here is about batteries. Again, we love batteries, but this is a good thing because it's looking at global vanadium battery revolution. Why Scotland is at the heart of a global vanadium battery revolution. So apparently vanadium is quite important for batteries, and a chemistry demonstration that did not go bang and pop. In a factory in Bathgate, 2 test tubes of vanadium electrolytes were mixed, one purple and the other orange. I don't know whether that's significant that they're purple and orange.
No, I think they just made them that colour so they could see.
So they could see them. Well, I was thinking there might be something significant to the purple and the orange. And apparently they didn't go bang.
And the temperature only rose to 33 degrees. So
Yeah, so that sound, not being a chemist, that sounds like it must be a good thing, because they're saying with lithium batteries there are many concerns about excessive heat generation, the thermal runaway, and eventual issues with fire and explosions. But this demonstration is designed to show that with our systems we don't have the same concerns. And this is the research scientist for Invinity Energy Systems. So they've obviously got something special that doesn't.
It does show you the progress that's been made in battery technology for the consumers. But
there has to be, doesn't there?
But let's just hope the same innovation goes to the actual end of life of the batteries and the recycling of the batteries, because we seem to be putting all our money and effort into making better and better batteries, but we're not really putting any effort into how do we actually recycle and recover the metals of these things.
Yeah, I mean that's the important part, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a Scotland-based company, so there we go. And I think that was all our news for this week. So a little bit of Albion news. We've not got a huge amount of Albion news. The only excitement in Albion is from the 1st of August. All our staff have become shareholders of Albion. So we did a share offer way back pre-COVID, and then over time we had new employees and so on. So we did a new share offer on the 1st of August. So every member of staff, current member of staff, is a shareholder, and they're all asking questions about what this means, how much money they get, and in effect at the moment they just get a nice wee bit of paper to say they've got shares, but there is a value in terms of dividend, and then there is a value attached to the shares. So, and it's been done under a share incentive plan which is all agreed with HMRC. So there are benefits to Albion and other benefits to the staff. So
absolutely, we're looking to work hard and earn more money, Alistair. So
and the shares,
good dividend next year.
What's the message? The shares can go down as well as up. So if they go down, it's because nobody's been working hard enough.
All right. Okay.
That's the incentive.
And what else have we got? Mia, our super marketing girl and our super rubbish talk girl. She was 21 yesterday. How can anybody be that young? I mean, really.
I think she's actually probably our first 21st birthday staff employee we've had, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
I don't think we've had anybody that young before.
And she got a cake yesterday, didn't she?
Yeah. So it's all good there. And then the really, 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 really important news for Rubbish Talk.
Really?
Finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks of chasing Simon Glenn, my episode 1 is now sitting in top spot by 1 listen. So I did let
Well
Simon.
done. Well
I did
done.
let Simon Glenn know he's been knocked off the top spot. So, how long I
Uh-huh.
stay there, I'm not sure. But you know, if you've not listened to my original, if you're a new listener and you've not listened to the original episode, by all means go back and have a wee listen. And I think Jane always needs a shout out for hers. I can't remember what number you were at, Jane. Number?
You can't remember what number? Oh, for
I,
goodness sake, yeah. So it's number 12. Never
I was
forget
going to
that.
say
Number 12.
10.
No, 12.
Yeah.
12. Definitely 12.
And
Yeah.
I was,
So I think we need more listeners for episode 12, don't we?
yeah, and then really interesting. I actually literally just got a message there from somebody that I know through running, and his wife works in a pharmacy, and he messaged to say, "Have you ever done a clinical waste one?" My wife's interested, and I was able to go back and say, "Yes, listen to Ruth Innes, episode 6." I
Oh,
can't believe it. I can't believe it was that long ago since we interviewed Ruth. Actually,
I know. I think we're going to have to re-interview everybody and see, where,
yeah.
what's happened
see
in
see
the
what's
last
happened
2
in their
years.
life. Oh, that's maybe
Yeah,
that's
that's
maybe an idea. And finally, last bit of news from us is we have the Resourcing Scotland Conference 2024, which is going to be on Thursday, the 14th of November, in the Assembly Rooms at Edinburgh. So this is an event. Previously, there was an event, a Resourcing Scotland event. I can't remember if that's what it was called. That was initially it was Glasgow, then it was Edinburgh, then it was Perth, and it ran over 2 days. So this is the Resource Management Association Scotland, CRWM, CISA, which is the Scottish Environment Services Association, RIA, Renewable Energy Association, and the Council Waste Managers Network have all come together and are putting on a conference by the waste industry for the waste industry. So if you've not seen the dates, we, Albion, are involved in terms of sponsoring and speaking, and we will update as we get nearer the time. So if you've not seen it yet, 14th of November, just Google Resourcing Scotland 2024. So over to, as I said earlier, over to Stuart Stockman, who is the waste disposal technician at Stirling Council. Poor Stuart was actually on his site, and he actually gets very poor reception at his site, so he was sitting in a very warm car during the interview and steadily getting warmer.
Yeah.
The reception was not great. We lost it a few times, and hopefully Mia has managed to work her magic to patch the bits together. So hopefully it'll not be too bad, the quality, but apologies, it probably is slightly worse than usual. But really interesting story in terms of Stuart, in terms of, as I said earlier, going from an MA to 10 years in the waste industry, still relatively young, lots of ambition in terms of moving forward, but he's over that 10 years he's picked up a lot of knowledge and experience. So, and
it's quite inspiring, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like somebody who did the MA and has got that ambition and the drive to just keep going and learning new things and wanting to learn new things.
Yeah, and it's almost as if we've planned these 2 episodes with Elspeth and Stuart together, but it's actually just been sheer luck we've had them together. So.
Well, and then we kind of had Anna as well in terms of training and COTC and all that sort of stuff. So there's definitely we're definitely moving into a theme.
A little bit of a theme going. Good. Okay. Nothing else from us. Over to our interview with Stuart and myself and Jane.
Hi, Stuart. Nice to meet you. Welcome to Rubbish Talk. And how are you today?
I'm good, thank you very much, Jane. Just joining you from on site on this Rubbish Talk podcast today.
Excellent. We like to find people out on site.
Yeah, actually, you look, Stuart, as if you're sitting in your car, so I hope the sun doesn't come out.
I am sitting in my car, yes.
So to start off with, can you tell us who you work for and a bit about who you work for and what they do? Stuart, please.
Yep, so I work for Stirling Council Waste Services. We're a local authority. I work on the disposal side of the house, which is dealing with the recycling centres, the waste transfer station, and sending the waste away once it's come back to us. More specifically about what I do, I'm the waste disposal technician. So my job entails looking after the closed landfill from things that are leachate treatment from the closed landfill, the site sewage that lovely comes in from the new office building because we're not connected to the sewage grid, so I get to deal with that. And I also do the waste data flow for Stirling Council as well, and deal with the weighbridge and the data that comes from that. And I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
Crikey, that certainly keeps you busy.
It doesn't stop, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say. So your waste transfer station, is that for recyclables, or what kind of transfer station have you got there?
So it does our curbside recycle for our paper and cardboard and our plastics, cans and cartons. It also does our curbside residual waste as well as our commingled food and garden. We also bring to the shed the glass from the curbside as well, and wood and our mixed bulky waste as well from the recycling centres.
Okay,
So,
you take everything in there then.
Yeah, it's a big shed. We've got to fill it somehow.
You know, I love a big shed. So what recycling bins have you got out on curbside then? Sounds like you might have quite a few.
I think we've got 4 bins and a box. So we've got our grey bin, which is our residual waste, our brown bin, which is our food and garden waste, our blue bin, which is our plastics, cans and cartons, a green bin, which is for our paper and cardboard, and the glass box, as I said. So 5 waste containers all together at curbsides. So a lot for our guys to collect, and a lot for the members of the public.
Yeah. So so you said you've also got like old landfill sites as well. So you're monitoring those, did you say?
Yeah, it's just the one closed landfill site, thank goodness. I've spoke to my counterparts in other local authorities have more than one landfill site, and I'm like, oh no, I can barely manage the one. So the Lower Palmies landfill was operational in the kind of 80s, 90s, and closed in the early 2000s. So I came in as an apprentice, and my apprenticeship was a waste projects officer, and I didn't really work on too many projects. I think my biggest project was clearing out the storage cupboard, and then somehow managed to find my way working with the environmental technician who was looking after the closed landfill at the time. Did a lot of my apprenticeship with him, and then he retired, and then I found my way to taking over for his role. And I like it. It fits me quite well. It means that I can work outdoors and use my hands, but also there's the other half of it that is inside as well, that is office based. So I get a good mix of indoors and outdoors, especially when it's nice in the summer. I can go I'll go and do my borehole dipping or my gas manifold sampling, which means it's a nice 2-hour walk around the landfill in the summer. Not so great in the winter though, when I have to go and do the same work and it's like pouring a rain or it's freezing cold or the snow's blowing in your face.
Yeah, I used to do that when I first started. I was doing something similar and used to think, oh yeah, it's a fantastically beautiful day, off we go. Might smell a bit, but apart from that, it's fine.
Do you know what? You get nose blind to the smell after like a couple of years. You're like, what smell? I don't smell nothing. Like, I will admit, and it's probably not the best thing to do it quite so publicly, is that I don't mind the smell of Avondale when you drive past it towards Edinburgh. Like the kind of like sulphurous like egg smell you get from the landfill. I'm like, actually, that doesn't bother me. I'm not going to say that I enjoy it, but it really doesn't bother me as much as it does other people.
Do you not find though when you go places or you're driving around, you're driving around thinking, oh, I can smell something, there's a landfill site somewhere, where is it, and you're looking around and you think, right, okay, I can see those gas wells poking out, that's where it is.
Yeah, 100%.
How sad are we?
Oh, it gets worse though. I take pictures of bins when I'm on a holiday. Like I was away in Portugal the other week there, and I was like, oh my god, that's a really interesting bin, and it was for accepting cooking oil at the curbside. I was like, oh my god, that's really, really cool. Like for general residents, I was taking photos and sending that to everybody at work, and oh my god, we need to get these bins in place.
That's a common issue, Stuart.
You joined the club where Alice has been taking photographs of bins for years.
Yep.
Poor wife.
So you've actually almost answered the next question there, Stuart. You mentioned you started as an apprentice. Did you ever think was getting involved in waste management ever in your plan when you left school? What did you want to do? What were your ambitions, and was the waste sector part of the big plan?
No, I fell into waste massively. When I was at school, I think I wanted to go into nursing, and then I was slightly put off by that from my mum. I didn't really think I had the stomach for it. She worked for the NHS, and I was just like, I don't know if I've got the stomach to do what she does. And then when I left school, I worked with Stirling Council, and I became a youth worker apprentice. So worked with young people, people that were my age, younger than me, or even older than me at the time, because I was quite young when I left school. And then when that contract ended, I was lucky enough to be able to apply for another apprenticeship, and it was between working in waste services or for becoming a housing officer. I interviewed for both. I didn't get the housing officer job, but I did get the waste services job, and that's how I fell into waste. 10 years later, I'm still here, like a bad smell. But I actually find that it's interesting. It's fun. It's something, like, especially for the disposal side of the house. I think that there's always something different coming along. Yesterday, I didn't know that I was going to be working in the shed until like the last day, at the end of the day. I was also working in Balfron Recycling Centre last night as well. So it's always different. There's always a new challenge to face. There's always a new problem to deal with. I would have to say that this is the best side of the house.
Yeah, I could go with that one actually. So in terms of your modern apprentice, what did that involve?
So my apprenticeship was, like I said, it was a waste project officer apprentice. So I was partnered up with one of the actual waste project officers, and they were to help me kind of learn how to do projects, how to kind of manage different aspects of what they were doing. So that was things like organising bin deliveries, dealing with customer inquiries, general inquiries and complaints. I think kind of on my first day working, I got put on the phone with a member of the public who was complaining about, I can't remember what the issue is. I just remember that they were complaining, and I was like, oh, like, I'm Stuart, I'm the waste projects officer apprentice. I don't want to speak to the apprentice. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, someone was like handed the phone back to my mentor. I was like, please take it. But it was so things like dealing with complaints, going out and doing site visits as well. I think the areas that my mentor and I were responsible for was Dunblane and Callander, and I think maybe Bridge of Allen as well. So some quite affluent areas, and people who expect a nice high standard of service for the council tax that they're paying. But it was quite good, and I had a really good mentor as well, who looked after me and who showed me the ropes, and still keep in contact with her as well to this day. She sadly abandoned me, I'll say, a few years ago for prospects now, and I've been left here, but I still see her, and I saw her quite recently, a couple of months ago, and was quite happy to tell her that I now have apprentices that I'm looking after, which is, I think it's a nice kind of full circle to see that I was an apprentice and then I've become a mentor. Don't know if I'm a good mentor right enough.
Excellent. That is a good story, actually. That is a good story. And I must admit, you're going around Dunblane and Callander, and I can understand why. It's quite a nice trip out, isn't it, really?
Oh yeah, it was very much like, oh, we need to go and do a site visit out in Callander to get a nice chippy, as well as to go and check the bins are all correct. But it was quite a nice area to look after, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you get a better quality of recycling over there then?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, you do get a wee bit better quality of recycling. I know from the recycling centres as well, everybody wants to bring like stuff in and not put it into the skips. There was plenty of people coming in. Oh, I've got this like kids' toys that are still really good quality, but we just haven't got space. We don't need them. I'm like, well, unfortunately, we don't have a recycle area. You will need to take them to a charity shop, and it's kind of that hard way of like saying, like, sorry, we can't do that here.
I think that's your next challenge, Stuart, is to make a free cycle area in these places. That could be your next project.
Yeah, I would like to see a free cycle area, I think, in Calendar and Palmays and Balfron. Um, just finding the right stuff and the right people to off-take it is maybe always the hardest part.
Yeah, that's true. You can give everything to somebody, but somebody else has got to want it. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's the want from somebody else to take it off your hands and to actually look after it and have that same vision as that you do as well.
Hmm.
You mentioned earlier on there, Stuart, your trips out to Calendar and so on. Was that your favourite role or project, or where you are now? Is that your favourite, or have they all been good but different as you progress through your career?
I think they've all been good but different, if I'm honest. I can't say that I've had one favourite role over the other. I think I'm always liking, or sorry, let me try and rephrase that. I'm always looking to learn new skills, and changing or moving up from an apprentice and through the different roles that I've done throughout Stirling Council has been good because I've been able to learn and gather different skills that have all then helped me into my next roles. So from being an apprentice, I then became a weighbridge operator. From the weighbridge operator, I then became an assistant waste collections coordinator in brackets disposals, because they didn't have a disposals assistant coordinator at the time. Then we got a new team leader in, and then they created the disposals technician role, and then I interviewed for that and became that. So there's been work that's followed me up from an apprentice, and then there's work that I've got new as my roles have changed and became different.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. It sounds like you've managed to get quite a nice career pathway in terms of getting experience in different areas and so on. And the bit you mentioned earlier on about mentoring, to me is really important. When we do the VQs with local authorities, we're always really insistent that the council has good mentors for the apprentices, because if they don't, then it makes it really, really hard work to get the candidate through the qualification. And I'm sure that because you've been through the process, you understand it pretty well and understand the importance of the mentor, where sometimes some of the managers don't understand their role there.
No, definitely. I think that it was important to me that the apprentices had the same opportunities or as good I'm going to say good a time doing their apprenticeship as I did. It was good for me. It taught me a lot in terms of like what I wanted to do and who I am and how I learn as well, and just kind of took me on a different journey than what I thought I was going to be. When I left school, like I say, I thought I was going to be a youth worker because that's the first apprenticeship that I did, and it actually turns out that I don't like working with like young people in the way that they were doing it. Like it wasn't exciting me. It wasn't doing what I wanted. I wasn't learning skills for myself as well as being able to teach skills to other people. And I think that was just maybe due to the age range that I was working with. That I was quite close in age to the young people, that they couldn't relate to me, or I couldn't kind of deal with them in the same way. But then coming here and then having apprentices, I feel like I've got a knowledge and experience that I've learned over the years that I can pass on to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you've been through it all as well, and that sounded like you had a good mentor when you went through your process, means that, you can see the value, which is pretty important.
No, definitely. I had a great mentor, and they taught me a lot, and trying to emulate that as well to my mentees, and hopefully they think the same thing when they have mentees of their own, if they decide to go down that road.
So, Stuart, who was your mentor?
Anna is Polish, and I really struggle with her last name.
Yeah, we'll just go with Anna.
Yep, Anna. Anna was my mentor, and she was brilliant. Definitely helped me a lot. Did give me into trouble when I needed to be given into trouble. Again, I do remember giving me into trouble, and I think I was in tears that time, like outside in the bike sheds, like, oh my god, like she's just given me into trouble. I've made a horrible mistake. But
Does
then
that
it was
lead
like,
into your worst thing stroke disaster you've had in the waste industry, or have you got more that you can share with us?
I think that I was fairly fresh on the ground, so I don't know if I can say that's the worst thing that's happened to me. Um, I would probably say the worst thing that's happened to me would be to get covered in raw leachate. Um,
Oh, yuck.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty horrible, Stuart. I've been there, done that.
Yeah,
yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
Come back from holiday, feeling like all happy, freshly tanned, going around the landfill, changing borehole pumps, and then it just all happened in slow motion. Was walking around the borehole. As I looked down, my foot hit the non-return valve, and my mouth was wide open, and I just got a face full of raw leachate straight from the source. And I
Oh,
was just,
yuck.
I honestly just all happened slow motion. Just didn't know what to do, and I was like, oh my god, had to go home. I didn't have a spare change of clothes in my car, covered in leachate, and like shower and brush my teeth 3 times because I could feel grit in between them. I'm like, this is absolutely horrible. I have been covered in leachate more times than I care to admit. It is it's almost a joke at this point to the like when the pandemic was going around. It's like, oh well, I haven't got it because I've swallowed that much leachate that I'm probably immune to it. Uh,
Not pleasant stuff at all, and it does tend to linger for a rather long time.
as it stinks and you're washing your hair and it's still coming out. You're like, oh no. Honestly,
And
I would say that's the worst part of my job, and it's the worst thing that's happened to me.
and all your workmates can smell it, but you can't.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So do you think being in the industry for the length of time you have been, has your role changed your views and opinions and habits out with the workplace? Do you feel you need to preach a bit about the sustainability message and making proper use of recycling and reuse and so on? Do you feel you have to do that, or did you always have that behind you?
Um, I would say that I've always had a kind of strong indication of recycling. I didn't grow up in Scotland. I grew up in Germany, and they have a very similar, or the system that I grew up with in Germany is very similar to the system that we have here in Stirling today, with the blue bins for your paper and cardboard, your plastics and cans. I think they have a yellow bin for plastics and cans, and food waste being done separately. Glass was to a bring site, and your residual waste. So for me, my view on recycling hasn't really changed so much. I've just been a bit more militant with making sure people here do it. My friends and family, um, my granny like gets bored, like you need to recycle this and you need to do it this way and you need to put this in this bin. Like, oh Stuart, shut up. Um,
Yeah, I know that feeling too. Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier just to sort our bin for us, Stuart.
Yeah, no, I do. I do. I was like, oh, like I'll just do it. Don't worry. Like again, friends as well. They're like, oh, does this go in the right bin or does this go in this bin? I'm like, I've already told you this. Here's the information, advice, and guidance leaflet. Like you can reread that. I also live in a block of like four flat, and I'm constantly like going through the bins, chatting the door, like that's not in the right bin. I am like the neighbor from hell. Uh,
You
You
need
are
to
the
you need
bin
to go back.
police.
You need to go back, Stuart, and listen to Laura Tainish's episode, which was way back at the very start. I don't know the number. Somebody will remind me the number. But she also lived in flats, and she had a bit of a campaign to improve the recycling in her flat, and she describes it very well. So if you're looking for inspiration, go back to that one.
I think I might have to because I do need some inspiration because sometimes they're just not getting it. I've put posters on the doors, I've put new stickers on the bins, I've chapped the door. I'm like, oh no, they're still not getting the message. Right, what do I need to do now?
What do you think it is, Stuart? We've discussed this a few times. To me, sometimes it's almost, is it laziness, or is it just not have not
I,
caring
I,
enough to make that change? And once you make the change, it's not that difficult, really.
I think there's a mixture of different things. I would say that there's a bit of laziness in there from people just not bothering, or they come from different areas. Every council across the UK, I think, is pretty much different. So there's a bit of like, oh, it's not like that at home, so I'm just not going to learn. Or like where I am, it's a mix of students as well as people that own the properties. So again, that comes down to like the different areas when it's a student. People that are living in the area, from the area, like they care a little bit more. I also think it comes down to like boys and girls as well. Sometimes I've seen a few different sets of students, like mostly it's all groups of girls or groups of boys. And I would say that maybe the girls are actually not as great at the recycling than some of the boys that I've lived across from, which is maybe a bit.
Mia's sitting in the call looking aghast that you've said that, Stuart.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I came home one day to find women's swimming costumes in the paper and cardboard bin that was freshly stickered. And I mean, it wasn't my swimming costumes that were in there, so I was like a process of elimination here. I was like, yeah. So yeah, I would say that it's a multitude of different things, and again, age as well comes into it. Like younger people are maybe a bit more interested in recycling than some of the older people. But it all just depends on a variety of different things. I may be being a bit inflammatory with what I've said there.
Not at
I
all,
think it
no.
also depends like how you've been brought up as well, doesn't it? I mean, like, I'm kind of banging the drum on about my kids, but one of them went to Stirling and he was really into the recycling. My daughter's over in Edinburgh and she's taking out her food waste and making sure all the flat sorts out their recycling and everything. So I think it's kind of like, how you've been indoctrinated at a young age.
Yeah, I've used those words myself, indoctrinated, to be fair, and I think you really do need to get them while they're young. Oh, that's probably again the most horrible set of words to say. It's like going into schools and teaching like young people like this is what you do, like this is the best way for recycling, like this is what you're doing in your local area, and just getting them interested and getting them to understand it and understand why we want them to do it and why they should be doing it, because then the young people will police their parents in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to your earlier comment before all the old people start having a go, as Stuart, I would actually say that, I know some old people that do sort of struggle with the recycling bit and where they should put stuff. But in terms of reuse and not producing waste in the first place, they're streets ahead of the younger generation.
Yes.
That they'll save things. They'll save a jam jar for this. They'll save a container for and reuse it for stuff in their freezer. They'll do all that sort of stuff. Whereas that doesn't, and if I think of waste hierarchy, the reduce reuse is way above the recycling and it's more important. But some of them do seem to struggle, and I think it's partly the diversity of products, the packaging that's out there, and the different products that are getting put in the market, that it is quite, it can be quite confusing. So it's we're not going to solve it this afternoon in this part of this episode. I don't think, Stuart. I think there's a bit of work to be done here.
Yeah, we've had 43 episodes trying to solve it, Stuart. So.
So sadly, I don't think that we're going to solve it on this one. But I do have to say I agree with you, Alistair. There that there's a make, do, and mend behaviour with a lot of older people that will keep things, and I will use that, or I've got a great way to actually like use that that piece that's fallen off here. I just call it my hoarder nest. If I'm honest, I will hoard jam jars and things, and just I'll fill that up or I'll use that. I've recently had to go and throw away a good few of them into my glass recycling box because I've not had an opportunity to reuse them. But no, definitely there is that great make, do, and mend like part of the older generations that is there.
So apart from being the bin monitor for the flat you live in, Stuart, how do you relax and get away from the work?
I've recently taken up going to the gym. Because I've been putting on too much weight after COVID. I like to go away on holiday, so that's all. I think everybody likes to go away on holiday, spend some time in the sun and get in a nice suntan, because the weather here isn't always the nicest. Honestly, I'm a really boring person. If I'm honest, like I haven't done much like fun things recently because I've been constantly working. What else?
You need to change that, Stuart. That needs changed.
I need to get a life. That's what you're saying.
A balanced lifestyle. That's what we're needing here.
100%. I need to get a better balanced life.
But to be fair, Stuart, you are only young. You know, you've got to keep going with that focus on work for a while before you realise that actually there's more to life. By the time you get towards Alistair's age, you're going on holiday all the time, and every weekend you're running up some weird mountain.
That's a terrible allegation to make, Jane.
I don't know if I could be running up mountains. Like, I mean, it's hard enough to walk up the set of stairs to the flat.
Yeah, well, I'll go with the holiday bit.
Yeah.
So what about, we talked about you spend all your time at work. So what do you see, what are you trying to achieve? What do you want to achieve in your career? What's your sort of goal and focus going forward?
I think kind of over the last couple of years, what I've thought I want, or start to think that I want to do, is that I like problem solving. I like the aspects of my role that are dealing with issues, finding out resolutions to things that have come up. I quite like the idea of possibly doing consultancy and trying like coming in places.
Don't do it, Stuart. Don't do it.
Is it that bad? Are you talking me out of it?
Yeah,
no,
we'll talk you out
he's
of it.
not talking you out of it. Carry on.
I'm not one for managing people. I don't think I'm particularly great at it. I think you've got people that are born to be leaders and managers. I don't think that I'm one of them, but I do feel that I'm quite good at coming up with solutions to different problems. I think that having dyslexia helps me think in a different way from somebody who's neurotypical, and that might not always be able to see a solution that's there. So I think for me that it's learning new skills and getting about. And growing up as an army brat or a kid whose parents were in the army, we moved around a lot, and I feel that maybe doing consultancy would give me that level of moving around that my life feels it's missing now that I've become like an adult away from my parents and in a more kind of stable place in my life. I'm like, oh, there needs to be a little bit of instability here. I think kind of that that part of like the consultancy would all tie in nicely into what I'm looking for going forward as I grow up more into being an adult.
Yeah, that's interesting thoughts. Yeah. What about kind of your job at the moment? Is there any facts you think people might not know about your job and the sector that you work in? There must be plenty of things.
Just trying to think. I don't think people actually kind of realise like I'm going to call it the back office side of things, that once waste has been picked up, they don't really give it too much more of a thought and kind of like what happens to it. And that's always the thing that I enjoy talking to the public about when I go and do events with Stirling Council, is that actually like it goes through multiple different processes. Like you've got to bring it to a transfer station, or you've got to take it directly to a landfill facility or an incineration plant. And kind of what goes on there, talking to them about like picking stations and optical sorters, and even like the closed landfill as well. They think that, oh, a landfill is just a big hole in the ground. Well, yes, it is, in essence it is that, but once it's closed over, you've got to think of things like leachate management. You've got things like your gas management, that you can then generate electricity from the methane gas. It's quite wide and varied. People just think waste, oh, it's bins, bin men, that's it. Well, it's not. It's so much bigger than that. And it's trying to get people to listen to that, and even like get young people to understand that as well. Like, a job in waste isn't a bin man. And like I don't know if people like if you think like, oh, if you hear parents saying to the kids, oh, if you don't stick in at school, you'll be a bin man. It's like, well, some bin men are particularly well paid. The amount of overtime that goes on, like there's definitely well paid bin men, but it is also like so much more interesting than that. Like it's just again, like it's more, there's more to it than just picking up the bins off the street. Like I say, there's such a wide and varied field. And and I'm always looking to learn more about it. And the more that I've worked in waste and deal with wastewater, the landfill treatment, I get more and more into wastewater treatment as well, and the connection into like sewage treatment and how that would then like to looking at learning how to do more of that as well. And there's a thought, but it's quickly evaporating away from my head.
I
I
was, I
think
was
Because
going
I've lost it.
Sorry, I was going to ask you there, Stuart. You mentioned you've done your apprenticeships. Have you ever thought about, getting going for a degree or higher education, or are you a chartered member of CIWM or anything like that? Or what other qualifications have you picked up in the way?
So I've picked up a few qualifications along the way. So I got my my management apprenticeship qualification, and then from that I went in to do a HNC in sustainable resource management. And that was a 2-year course. That was a great networking opportunity, as well as actually learning more about what I was
Was
doing.
that the 1 in 5?
Yeah, that was the 1 in
Yeah.
5. That was it. That was a great course. I've recently completed a WAMATAB as well.
Yep.
So, and then once I completed my WAMATAB, I also then applied to become a technical associate member of the CIWM. So I don't know how brave.
You should be going for chartered.
Well, I think I went through the wee quiz of what level should you apply for, and I think it did come out chartered, and I was like, I don't know if I'm quite ready for that. That seems like very somebody that knows what they're doing, and I don't know if I'm there quite yet. In terms of kind of going on and doing degrees, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. I have applied for another HNC qualification. Doing it was wastewater management, to help me more with my leachate treatment. But in terms of going into university and doing a degree, I think it's just the fear. For me, there's the I call it the book learning. I'm more of a practical person, and that's why I found the apprenticeship was really great for me. I got to learn while doing, and then the kind of the sitting down, studying, revising, and kind of essays that I associate with university puts the fear of God into me.
Yeah. Do you know what I think from what you've been describing there, Stuart, is there's different career paths for so many different people, and the way you've done yours, which sounds like suits you with the apprentice, and then but carrying on with your learning, which you've carried on with your COTC and all that sort of stuff, and that's kind of it kind of demonstrates you never stop learning, do you? There's more things that you think, right, okay, I'm enjoying that, I'd like to know more about that, like your wastewater stuff as well. It's like I can do it up to a point, but I can learn more about it, and it's really, I think that's really quite commendable.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I thought that's always been one thing that I've thought about myself, is that I don't ever see myself going to uni, but I don't want that to be a barrier to me. I always want to be making sure that I can always learn something new. And doing things the way that I have done, I feel like has benefited me, and it's never not having a degree has never stopped me so far. And a part of me just wants to challenge that and see how far will I get without a degree.
But it shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't stop you. You don't need a degree to do the things that you've done. It's a lot of it is experience, it's a doing, it's on the job learning, it's demonstrating, it's the evidence that you can do that. It's not that you can sit down and write an essay and read a book. It's actually that you can do it. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think people put too much onus on degrees, and it's not necessary.
There is a path in terms of going back to CIWM, Stuart. There is a pathway to become chartered via your COTC, and that was a very specific change CIWM put in place, because it used to be that you needed a degree to be chartered CIWM, and that was viewed as a little bit unfair. and now they've introduced a pathway where you can do the COTC and get in that way. I was only quizzing because I'm always, as you know, I'm involved with Switch, and I'm always interested in this sort of career pathways and how people find you. And you're quite an interesting example that you have come through up through the modern apprenticeship route, and you know, got to where you are, you know, and you're still middle or early part of your career, if you like. So it's how you know, it's almost what's next, what's the future. And you know, my thought is the way the universities work in terms of building up courses and so on from previous qualifications, then you know, eventually achieving a degree is, I would suggest, very achievable for you.
Mm-hmm.
The University of the West of Scotland have got quite a good, more practical side to them, haven't they, as well?
Yeah. Okay. Last couple of questions we always ask all guests, Stuart, is we're looking for your favourite piece of slang or dialect or expression that you find yourself often using that sometimes people may not know what that word or expression would mean. Any particular examples?
TFS, transfer station. I use that one quite a lot, and I don't think people outside of Waste have always understood it or always caught me when I'm talking about it to my friends. Oh, I'm just in TFS today. Whereas to me and work colleagues, it's plain English.
Okay, and the second one is, I'm going to give you a magic wand to sort something out in the waste world, either your own environment or the big bad world out there. What would you like to use it for?
What would I like to fix?
What would you like to fix? If you had one thing you wanted to sort and you had a magic wand to do it with, what would you like to use it for?
I don't really know. That's quite a hard one, if I'm honest.
Take a pick. Anything that particularly annoys you, you just think, oh, I wish that could be sorted.
I think it's those women in that flat.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really starting to bug me more and more is like paint disposals, or like it's one thing that we're seeing a lot of, and it's not quite as easy to get rid of, or people just, oh, it's just paint, like can you just not take it, or can you not just deal with it? I'm like, well, there's not actually a solution that's reasonable that doesn't cost an absolute arm and a leg. And the amount of times I have had complaints from hook lift drivers because they've got covered head to toe in paint, because somebody's chucked it in the skip, and it's then they've obviously opened the doors and they're coming going, look at me, and they are head to toe in magnolia paint, and I have to try really hard not to laugh.
Probably shouldn't laugh, should we?
I always don't. I manage not to in front of them, but I do have to have a cheeky wee laugh sometimes in private. When it's like, yeah, I think that would be the one thing, because it is one that I see a lot more of, and I hear a lot more of. And like I say, I get staff complaining to me about it, like, this shouldn't be in here. I'm like, I agree with you 100%. So I would say paint, to be honest. That's a big one.
It's probably slightly less problematic than it used to be when half the paint was hazardous waste, but most of the paint is water based now. But yeah. I do know there are some organisations that try and blend the paint all together and then resell paint and so on, and they're reasonably successful. But if you've not got that type of facility in your area, then it's challenging. So yeah. Good.
Yeah, I remember going to our waste recycling centre with loads of tins of paint I'd had in the back of the cupboard, you know, stuff like, you know, used to paint the kids' room like 20 odd years ago, and found somewhere. And I took all this paint, massive loads of paint, and I'm like, what should I do with it? So have you got somewhere you can put this paint? Nah, just chuck it in amongst everything else. I'm like, are you sure? Really? Yeah, I'll be fine. All right, okay. So yeah, I can imagine that guy getting covered in magnolia paint. Mind you, this was Tigger orange, so that'd be even worse.
That would be worse.
Yeah. So finally, this is your last question, Stuart, and you've done very well so far. It's a bit like what's that, Mastermind? except there's no really right answers. So what advice would you like to give to the younger generation coming into the sector? What would you tell them, having been that person a few years ago?
A few years ago. Sorry, what was the question again?
What advice would you give to the younger generation coming into the sector? What would you tell them?
Don't worry about the smell, you'll get used to it.
Perfect. I like that one. Anything else?
Any
other pearls of wisdom you've got?
Pearls of wisdom.
I think what you were talking earlier, Stuart, about that there's so many different roles in the sector and different things you can get involved in and the opportunities you've got and the sort of flexibility that is, site based and office based, and you need to be good at both.
Yeah, being good. Don't be afraid to try different bits and pieces. Actually, would be one thing that I would say to young people coming into the sector is that try everything if you've got the opportunity to do so. Like I say, today I am working within the transfer station. I have been able to drive the loading shovel, but equally I've been able to operate a weighbridge. I manage the closed landfill. I do the data. There's so much to try and do to find your little niche, to find what you enjoy within waste. So always go out and try something, and always ask to try something, because that's always been the way that I've done it, or it's always worked for me as an apprentice. Seeing the admin team go down and cover the weighbridge, I'm like, what's that? I want a shot. That's what did for me. Just that worked well for me, and then it led me to learn a new skill that has then helped me move on and helped me in moving forward. Because I look after the waste data flow for the council, which comes from the weighbridge data, helps me understand it that much more. Because while I'm looking at the data, I'm picturing myself in the weighbridge, looking at the vehicles coming and going and seeing where they're going as well.
That's interesting, because I guess to some extent when you're looking at the data, you're also thinking, is that data right?
Just try everything until you find what you like the most, because there's so much to do that you will find something.
I think that's good advice, Stuart. I think good advice. So that's us at the end of the question set. Thank you very, very much for your time, and good luck with continuing to progress through your career in the waste management industry. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Stuart. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Jane.
In the heart of air where the echoes ring, there's a place that fights the chaos out beyond it sings. They're the warriors for the earth, fighting every day. An environmental consultancy leading the way. They train the fighters, they sharpen the blades, battling the waste that pollutes and degrades. With knowledge as their weapon, they educate and train. I'll be on environmental, breaking the chain. From the mountains to the seas, they spread the call, aiming for a future where the world will not fall. With sustainability as their creed, they march on.